Right. So in the last year, we've obviously undergone a lot of restructuring in the Tennessee Board of Regents system. We are now primarily a system that works with community colleges and technical colleges. However, a lot of the initiatives that I started 3 years ago under Dr. Denley's leadership here still engage our university representatives. And so I'm working kind of across the system, the state, on a lot of our completion agenda work. So I now am Vice Chancellor of a newly formed office called Office of Student Success. We focus on not only high impact practice work, we look at advising. We're partners with academic affairs on a lot of the work that we do around academic mindset. And then we're moving into some new areas where we're looking at how we develop a complete student record that will articulate not only between technical colleges and community colleges, but to our universities. And so we're engaging in conversations not beyond our system with the University of Tennessee and other universities in the state on that particular project. So we're taking the work that we've done in high impact practices now in my office and taking it kind of full scale with not only, offering these things at all of our institutions and encouraging their growth, but how we communicate these competencies and skills that students gain in these experiences on a record that then employers and other institutions can see later. I think, one key point is obviously in the state of Tennessee, we are mirroring a lot of the work that's being done in Georgia. And we've kind of already gone places that Georgia's just now starting. So I do have a perspective of how you work through some of the challenges of putting together a plan as an institution. We've done several completion academies in our state, but also we do advising academies. We always have campuses develop plans around advising. Obviously our co-rec work, the pathway work, and the high impact practice, all of that feeds together, right? I mean, these are not separate initiatives, they are cohesive. And we've had to work with our campuses about understanding the big picture about how these all fit together seamlessly and how campuses can develop plans. So, I mean, I've worked with campuses on those challenges now for 3 years. And I think that that's something I can bring to the table is how do you have that conversation with faculty or staff members at your institution to get them on board to do this work? And then what are some things, considerations that you might need to take into account to really make that flow well with the folks that you're working with. So one of our big areas, which I'm from the USG system originally, I don't know if you know that. So I'm familiar with institutions in Georgia, and I think there's a lot of similarities between our community colleges and the colleges there in Georgia in the sense that, we still have gaps with underrepresented minorities. We are doing a lot to target this work on how we engage underrepresented minorities in greater numbers in high impact practices. And there is no excuse for why you can't be doing, undergraduate research at a college. We're doing it at community colleges in 2 years. We have programs that have undergraduate research. Why you can't do study abroad. We're in the top 10 of community college systems in the country sending students abroad. There are things that people just historically have thought were not places, that they could go with activities for students on their campus. And I would challenge that and say there are ways that we can make this work. And there are things that we need to think about to engage more underrepresented students. We're obviously an access system, so we always frame our conversation about working with students who are underprepared, who might come from low income situations. 6% or more of our students are Pell eligible. So these are common challenges I think that we have with Georgia, and we are working through how we engage those populations in this work in meaningful ways to change the completion needle with those groups of students. So I think that's where I can lend some expertise is having that conversation about how you do that.
Thanks. Would be great.
Yeah, so we're in the early stages of our mindset work. I believe you all are also working with the UVA Motivate Lab, and that's who we've been partnering with on a lot of research. We've done now 3 years of surveys of first-year students in the first month that they're on campus about their mindset, and then we do post-survey in December about how that might have changed over the course of the semester. We just got our first set of early findings on that, which were a little surprising. in the sense that, it's not necessarily how well the student does academically, but really that belonging piece is making a difference for that student, whether or not they're retained. But also that there's kind of this cumulative effect that we maybe don't really see the full, impact of that until their sophomore year. So, you kind of have these students that over the course of a year really kind of get that going for themselves in terms of belonging, which at a 2-year institution is particularly challenging because you only have them for a short period of time. So how do you speed that up in some way? So we've done some regional trainings across the state with faculty. I would say the biggest piece for us is how we've been changing the culture on our campuses with faculty to think about how they change messaging or particular interventions in the classroom around mindset. And we just had a big statewide conference, and I would say mindset right now is the hot thing with faculty on our campuses. So we're starting to change that culture on our campuses with faculty. And they're engaging and thinking about how they can develop their courses differently to really address these mindset issues in the first year. So we are actually developing, in the middle of developing some charrettes right now with UVA that we're going to pilot among 3 of our institutions that have a really high URM, underrepresented minority population. We're going to pilot that in the fall. So we're going to see how that goes with some particular interventions and if they work. And then if they do, we'll scale that across the system. But we are in the early kind of testing phase of that work right now.